Hi everybody, this is your Professor Ian. Let me move that guy over there. These are my video instructions for the second response paper. So I'm going to just go over that quickly. Here I am at the module page. I'm scrolling down to the response paper module. Here's all the material for response paper number 1. Here's the stuff for number 2. This will all be available soon. So let me click on the instructions for response paper number 2. Okay, so here we go. Response paper number 2 is going to focus, of course, on drama and theater. Some of the basics are the same. It is a at least 3-page long response paper. It's not meant to be, it's meant to be like a short essay, more of a quick response to practice close reading skills. And I'm giving you, specific things that I'm looking for in terms of both content and structure. So I hope that helps you develop some of these skills we're looking for. So for the second paper, you're going to compare and contrast 2 performances of one of the plays that we read. So I have 4 prompts listed here. Find 2 versions of the play's Trifle being performed on YouTube. How do these versions of Trifles differ? Focus on just 1 or 2 differences and discuss how these choices create different meaning. Okay, so that's the basic prompt. I'm giving you a couple examples. You can find other examples of performances. These are just 4 that I found quickly. You can use the video that we watched together. That's fine. Any performance is open. That's totally fine. Second prompt, same instructions, focusing on the play Los Benditos. Again, I've found 4 performances, but you can totally find your own. You need to... If you find different ones, remember it has to be something I can access, just for transparency purposes. The third prompt is about the play Fences, the third play that we're reading together. And again, you can use any performances you wish. I've included the Denzel Washington one. I think that's that one there, and the James Earl Jones one right there. And there's a couple others that I found. There are others available. You could also use the movie Fences and compare it to a play version. If you want to do that, that would be fine by me. And then the fourth prompt is your choice. So again, if you want to focus on a different play, I'm open to that. Just please run it by me first. And remember, you need to find 2 performances of the play, which isn't hard if you choose, if you choose a popular play that's been performed and posted to YouTube many times. And again, I don't mind if you want to use a movie versus a play. That's totally fine. I don't want you to use 2 movies or television shows or whatever, just because we are focusing on theater. So I do want some of your writing to be directly about theater. I'm totally open to you writing about film or TV in terms of performance and, performative choices. I think that's totally in the same realm as theater and drama in the way that we're looking at it. So, if you want to work on a different play, please just let me know. We can talk about it. I've posted a number of resources in if you go back to the response paper module, just like I did for response paper number 1, we're focusing on slightly different things. For this one, we'll be looking at MLA formatting, a couple other things. There are also optional discussion forums for each of the prompts that will be available, just like there were for response paper number 1. So the structure I want you to follow is similar. Intro paragraph, doing the same work, very quickly get to your thesis. A concluding paragraph at the end. The difference is a little bit in the body paragraphs. You should still use that triac structure. It's a super useful structure for organizing analytical paragraphs. I also note here, this is a compare and contrast paper. So you need to think about how you're going to compare and contrast your 2 texts. We use the slice method or the block method, which I'll talk about in a second. And that's really the only difference that I made to the structure section. As well, for this part, this is pretty much the same where I'm talking about trying to avoid a 5-paragraph essay, a hamburger essay. So for your thesis, choose just 1 literary element to focus on. Exclamation point. Oh yeah. In this case, you should think about specific choices the directors and actors made as they translated the written text to the stage. You can think about costumes, choice of actors, line delivery, set, any of those aspects of the mise en scene that we've been talking about, the theater choice, anything that has to do with the performative translation of the text is something you should focus on. But again, just like with the first paper, you shouldn't spread yourself too thin. Don't try to cover costumes, choice of actors, line delivery, and set. Rather, focus on set, and you'd be better to think about set and choose like 2 scenes and really dig into that. Like, okay, in this scene, they use the set in this way in the first text, and they use the set this way in the second text. In this other scene, they use the set this way in the first performance, and they use the set this way in the second performance, right? That way you're focusing on set, and you're looking at two different points in those two different plays. So do not try to spread yourself too thin. Just really focus on one, maybe two, but probably just one element from those plays. Okay? So that's pretty much the same as the instructions for your first response paper. This is different. Note number 3. So this second paper is a compare and contrast paper. You're comparing and contrasting two performances of the text. This means you're discussing two works. To properly structure your paragraphs, you need to think about how you're going to go about comparing your chosen texts. Do you want to discuss the same element in each play or each performance in each paragraph? That's what we call the slice method. Or discuss only one work in each paragraph. That's what we call the block method. Either way is fine. You just need to think about it ahead of time. This is a short paper, so I might suggest that the slice method is going to be easier, but it's up to you. So here's two examples of these two different methods. So if I were doing the block method, and say I were comparing the way that Denzel Washington and James Earl Jones deliver their lines in Fences, which we're going to look at in this class, I could go about it two different ways, right? For the block method, I have my intro, the exact same. Then in paragraph 2, I would look at lines from a specific scene from performance number 1, let's say Denzel Washington. Then my next paragraph, I would look at the same lines from the same scene from the second performance with James Earl Jones. In my fourth paragraph, I'd go to another scene in the play and look at how Denzel Washington delivered his lines in that scene. And then paragraph 5, I would go to the same second scene, right, from the performance with James Earl Jones. See? So the first paragraph 2, I'm focusing on Denzel Washington in one scene, and then James Earl Jones in the same scene, comparing them over those two paragraphs. And then in my next two paragraphs, I'm moving to a different scene, and I spend one paragraph with Denzel and one paragraph with James Earl Jones, and then a conclusion. Okay? The slice method, this means you're slicing back and forth. Intro, as per usual. Second paragraph, I'd look at some lines from a specific scene from both performances, and then I'd look at a couple more lines from that same scene from both performances, so I'd split that up, right? Whereas I'm looking at a whole scene up here, I would split that into two paragraphs, but I would look at both texts in each paragraph, if that makes sense. And then in paragraphs 4 and 5, I would switch to a different scene, right? So let's say I chose a scene from Act 1, a small scene from Act 1 for these two paragraphs, and then a small scene from Act 2 for these two paragraphs, okay? And then again, a conclusion as per usual. So as you can see, these two methods cover the same ideas, but they're just structured differently, right? Just how you're structuring your argument. You need to think about how you're going to do this for a compare and contrast essay. It's what I'll be looking for. Part of what I'll be looking for when I look at the structure of this paper is how you go about this in a logical fashion. And no matter which method you choose, you will want to start by thinking about the similarities and differences, and that's why we're going to learn about Venn diagrams this week. You might very well be familiar with this. It's just a way of thinking about differences and similarities between different things. If that doesn't make sense, it will hopefully very shortly. This note number 4 is similar to the one for the response paper. This should be an MLA format, double-spaced, Times New Roman font. For this one, you'll have at least 2 works listed in your works cited page, maybe 3 if you reference the play itself, which you can. You're definitely going to have the 2 performances, and you might have the text of the play itself. And here's just a little guide from the Owl at Purdue, that great resource about how to cite YouTube videos. There's just some things, special way that we cite things on YouTube, or just a formula we use. It's pretty easy. Anyways, effective responses, same thing as last time. So again, what I'm looking for is a nice tight focus on a specific thesis statement. And you can see when you're comparing and contrasting 2 different texts, you really got to be laser focused on that thesis. You cannot cover set, costume, acting, lighting, whatever. You need to really say, okay, you know what really struck me about these 2 performances was
the costume choices, and that really made me think differently about how this play operated than this play. So, and you want to, for this paper, you want to do more than just review, right? I like this performance more than this one. That's a good place to start, but you need to think about why that is and what that means and how you can discuss that at greater length using some of these literary elements that we're discussing in this unit on theater. Okay, that's about it for now. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email me, and otherwise enjoy working on this project. Thank you very much.